Hey there, friends. What's going on? It's Codiak back with Livid. The North Line update is live, and that means, Liv, the Matriarch has arrived. We have fought one. We have killed one. What are your initial thoughts?
I think it's a very cool step in the right direction for endgame arc killing. I think the mechanics it has, which we'll talk about in a little bit, are cool. They're cool new mechanics. I think they could be a little more aggressive, I think, with what they design. But I think overall it's a cool step in the right direction.
Yeah, so the Matriarch itself has a couple different abilities. And the first ability is that it can call down waves of reinforcements. What did we fight? We fought, obviously, the Matriarch, a Bastion, a Bombardier, a Leaper, swarms of Wasps, and Hornets. There were some fireballs down there, a Rocketeer, the endless waves of enemies that it called in. It really does create an interesting dynamic for, like you said, an end game type of arc boss.
Yeah, it almost feels like a horde mode, like exemplified in a boss form, where you're just trying to get rid of the spawner.
The Matriarch itself also has, I would say, 2 offensive abilities and then 1 more utility ability. So break those down for folks who may not have had the chance to fight a Matriarch yet.
Yeah, so she has one of her main abilities is she fires off these like rockets that are homing, but they come out at like a straight on angle towards you. So if you're like down low, it'll arc and hit anybody that's kind of in front of her. If there's walls behind you where you're standing, you'll get huge splash damage. So they're kind of like really targeted attacks, like frontal focused. And we found that if you're sitting up high and you're maintaining height essentially over her, you'll have a way easier time of dealing with those because they'll more than likely fly past you as they're trying to crest the ledge that you're standing on and not hit anything, not damage you. If they do explode in front of you, they hit the ledge in front of you and you're usually pretty fine. So that's her main rocket attack. And then she has a secondary like barrage where she'll fire off, I think it's three or four salvos of missiles, similar to how the Queen fires rockets, but these will land and they'll blanket an area in poison. So it's kind of like an area denial. If you're hiding behind cover, that's how she'll flush you out of cover. So again, you want to kind of be high, you want to have enough space to move around so that way you're not getting pinched in an area where you're getting blanketed by poison. So those are like her 2 main attacks.
Right, and she has 1 utility attack, or utility ability, I should say, and she basically creates an electromagnetic shield for a short period of time, and that allows her to protect herself against any incoming Raider projectiles. Obviously we haven't tested it with every weapon, but it seemed pretty impervious.
Yeah, it stopped. I was using a Jupiter during our kill, and it stopped the Jupiter projectiles. I think it stopped a wolf pack at one point. It stopped grenades hitting her. I was watching other people ping her with hull crackers and everything, and it would just deny all those projectiles instantly. So it's cool. There's like a anti-projectile shield that's you gotta play around it. You can't just be spewing damage into her. I think it's like a hard counter to people like spamming like wolf packs and stuff like that.
So the Matriarch, the one that we fought, was on Dam Battlegrounds. It can spawn on Blue Gate. It can spawn on Spaceport. Slightly different patrol pattern than the Queen, right? In the case of the Matriarch on Dam Battlegrounds, she was right in the middle of the breach. And that was a really interesting area for a couple different reasons, right? So we've scouted it a couple times before we actually fought it, and we were talking through what's the best angle for this? Where do you want to position yourself and your team? And then what are some of the external factors? Because what we found, very different than the Queen, right? That's out in the open in the middle of the bog there. The Matriarch being in the breach, there's a lot of opportunity for PvP, for third partying. You have to consider multiple tactics when you're fighting a Matriarch.
Yeah, because every single angle that you have on her has to look down into the pit, or you're down level with her, which is definitely not the way to go. You don't want to be level with her at all. So she will, her being down in that pit, because you have to look over, you're often not seeing your flanks. You're often not seeing what's behind you. You might have to hold tight corridors, like those 2 corridors that are part of the Broken Dam segment. We saw a lot of teams fighting inside of there, but that becomes a giant kill box. She'll fire rockets down that hallway. When she starts spawning Bastions and Rocketeers, they'll line up on those hallways. And those hallways provide really easy opportunities for a team to jump down on the staircase behind them and flank them, and they have nowhere to go. So, and there's a lot of these places on the side of the dam. So most places you'll stand in, you're really susceptible to either being pushed into a tight corridor or being roof camped from a ton of high angles. Like we saw people sitting on top of the control tower, not even fighting her, just sitting there sniping people.
Dam has some really interesting vantage points, and to your point about the kill boxes, like you think you're safe inside of a tight corridor, but what Livid was saying about her main projectile ability, those kind of self-propelled rockets, laser accurate. I mean, she was shooting rockets into that tiny room. I don't know how many, raiders she knocked, but she's doing enough damage to force them to kind of change position. And where we were positioned was on top of the opposite roof, and we had a lot more latitude, right? We had the ability to reposition. We had the ability to completely disengage from the fight. And I think, it was our first time killing it. Obviously, there's room to grow, but I think it was almost a stellar kill from our part.
I think it was the perfect place to fight her. It's for anybody wondering, it's the pipeline tower. It's the one that's just slightly to the south of power generation complex. You can't get up there by normal means. You have to bring a zip line to get on top of there. And bringing a zip line, you kind of want to put it in an inconspicuous spot off to the backside. And when you do, we took the precautions of putting traps down. So we put different mines there, the electric mines. We used one of the new mines, I can't remember what it's called. It's the pulse mine, the one that knocks players back. And we actually had an instance where, players were coming up. They were thinking they were going to sneak up. We knew they were down there already. And as they started coming up, they hit the electric mine, and then immediately the pulse mine hit, and it just pushed them right back off. So it's a good place to defend from if you can get there first. If you don't get there first, there's obviously going to be ways that, you'll set up a zip line at another angle. You might catch them off guard because there are different ways you can come up from. But overall, you have that huge open space on top. You can see pretty much anybody around you in the surrounding area. You have perfect line of sight on the Matriarch. You have a lot of things you can actually dip behind for cover should like a Rocketeer show up on top. We had one point a Leaper threw himself all the way on top, and we were fighting that thing at one point. We had a Bombardier that was constantly bombing us, but we had enough room to move around that we didn't really need to worry about it too much. So it provided a really good spot to be super flexible.
Yeah, and you have to come prepared, right? Anytime you're going to fight a queen or a matriarch or really any elite enemy in the game, you have to come prepared. We had a strategy going in. Was it the best strategy? Really don't know at this point, but it worked, right? So we went in with a bunch of wolf packs. Liv already mentioned he went in with a Jupiter. I had an Osprey and a Renegade. We were really covering our bases. And then our third had, kind of rounded us out with his armaments. But we went in with a game plan of, hey, we're going to approach this like we do for other elite enemies, using wolf packs. And Liv, we actually, before we watched any videos, saw any articles, anything like that, we figured out what the weak spots were. So yeah, for folks who have ambitions of fighting a matriarch, let them know.
She's extremely heavily armored. I think she actually has like 2 times the amount of armor on her legs than the queen does. So if you are going for those are weak spots underneath all that armor, but you do have to blast through a lot more armor plating before you get to those critical joints that you can blow off. I found that the Jupiter was doing really well at blowing through those. I think something like the Equalizer would actually really excel there just to strip the armor plating off. We didn't try it, but I have to imagine that is the reason that gun exists. And outside of that, her other main weak spot, the one that you really want to go for, is as you're dealing damage to her hull, you eventually will break off this kind of like outer layer, and you'll find these like 2 kind of core spots that are tied to like her core that take a lot more damage. So once you can break that shell, you can deal significant damage to her a lot quicker.
Yeah. So combination of wolf packs and then obviously hitting those weak spots. There were some, other raiders that were sinking some damage into her. Like, she's not a pushover by any stretch. Those additional enemies are ruthless. Eventually we got the kill, right? I think, Liv, you might have gotten the kill, or maybe even a third party got the kill, but we were the ones to loot the body. We got the Matriarch reactor. We now know it's tied to the Aphelion legendary, which we have not found the blueprint for yet. I don't think at the time of making this video anybody has.
Yeah.
But, from again, tactics-wise, we sent one person down. We sent Livid down to go check out the body, and sure enough, as Livid is looting the body, raiders are collapsing on his position, right? So me and our third on our team, we are providing him that, like, kind of overwatch, and I cannot stress enough how important it is to communicate, like, what is the game plan? What is the vision for how you guys want this, that part of the fight to go? Because without that communication, maybe 3 of us go down there and we get wiped, right? Like, I think that was one of the things we excelled at the most during that whole boss fight.
Yeah, I knew that was absolutely going to happen just based on how many teams around us were already fighting. Like, even before we killed the Matriarch, we had a team that was below us that we were trying to kill. We had a team that was trying to zip up on us that we were trying to kill. Across the gap, I think there was 3 or 4 teams all fighting with each other and sniping at us. There was another team on top of the tower sniping down at us. It was just a lot of like hectic movement there that I knew as soon as she goes down, as soon as she's not a threat anymore, everybody's going to start to collapse. And I think that's another reason we saw the pipeline tower as probably the best position to do it from, because you can then put a zip line down really quickly to get down to that breach versus everybody else on the other side. I think they have a much larger distance to run. They're way more exposed. I had a much easier time of being able to dip into cover or get behind her parts that they just couldn't hit me, versus our team sitting on top was able to just keep everybody off me. I think there was one person that got close to me to loot, and I could barely even see him in the wreckage. So, but if we had all gone down, that would have gone completely differently. And I think the importance there is to also realize, this is a event type that allows you to use a hatch key. And I think you need to use a hatch key, but you also need to watch out for hatch campers during this event now as things go on, when people realize how valuable the parts are that she drops.
Yeah. So call it beginner's luck, call it skilled, call it whatever you want. We killed the Matriarch. We came, we saw, we conquered. Now we have to do it on Spaceport and Blue Gate. Guys, if you're going to fight the Matriarch, come loaded for bear. As always, Liv, thank you so much. For everybody else out there, my name is Codiak, and from everyone here at Legacy Gaming, thanks so much for watching, and play on.